All right, there we go. So chicken wild rice soup. We're gonna make one serving for ourselves, and we're gonna make a family portion at the same time. If you're not cooking for a family, don't worry about making the family portion. If you're cooking for yourself, you do have the option to, increase your serving size. So you could multiply everything by 2 or 3 if you want more servings. That's totally fine. Just divide it as evenly as you can at the end of the class. So we are going to get started. First thing we're going to do is chop up some carrots, celery, and some onion. Now, with cooking, I'm not much of a measurer, so I just say whatever your eyeballs like. That is how much you're going to have. I tend to go heavy on the veggies. Now I've already peeled my carrots. You could even cheat. You could use matchstick carrots just to make this super simple. You could use carrots that are already peeled. It's fine too. Same with celery. But I've already washed my stuff here. Big thing with this recipe is just having our chicken already prepped. This one's not as big of a problem or necessity, just because the rice will have to cook. So technically you could throw raw chicken into it, but I just find it way easier to have chicken prepped. So one of the things I did today is I grilled up a bunch of chicken. That's what my food prep looks like. Pretty much, that's all. So I'm just gonna cut my veggies. I tend to go a little bit heavier on the veggies in my own stuff because they offer good fiber, help keep you full, great minerals, vitamins. You don't want to cut them too big. And I'm cutting enough for I'm only making myself one serving, so I'm cutting enough for my serving and the family pot. And then these are easy little things to snack on if you want as well. If you guys during this at any point have questions on anything, all you need to do is unmute yourself and pop in and ask your question. There's no such thing as a stupid question or dumb question or irrelevant question. And I'm going to give you guys another soup recipe that you can make pretty much the same as this one. Just by changing 2 ingredients, it'll change the soup completely. And that's by making a beef stew. I don't want to chop my fingers off here. So celery, I just usually slice her down the middle. Celery is looking a little sick. I just bought it too. Apparently it's not celery season. So I learned how to cook pretty much. I was just a stay-at-home mom, and I learned how to cook mostly just from cookbooks and Rachel Ray. She was pretty amazing because she was kind of like a normal person that didn't have all this crazy fancy cooking skill. It was just normal stuff, right? And her meals were fast, and she taught me so much. And I just started practicing and practicing. And now, it's almost to a point, or it is to a point for most stuff. I don't need a recipe. I can just wing it and figure out my meals, but it takes practice to get there. So I really encourage, there's a lot of hesitation with people getting into the kitchen these days and making meals. We've really gotten into going out to eat a little bit too heavily in that. And it's important that we find that enjoyment in the kitchen. All right, I'm just gonna chop up some of my onion here. I always use purple onion. It doesn't matter what onion you use. Purple is sweeter. I'm just gonna chop it. Bring on the eye water. Woo. All right. So that's pretty much all the veggies that I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set these just kind of off to the side a little bit. Actually, I'm going to bring my pan over. So I have 2 pans on the stove because I'm making a family pot and my own. So I've got my little baby pot. I'm just going to handful in the veggies that I'm going to use for mine. That's about what it looks like there. So I'll just throw that back there. And then I will just add the rest of these to the family pot. All right, now I'm gonna just cut up the chicken. So since the chicken is already cooked, I know how much to measure out. So I've got my scale, my food scale right here. I'm actually gonna put my pan. No, I'm not. I'm gonna grab just a little plate, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna just take a little plate here. I'm gonna put my plate, hi Stacy. I'm gonna put my plate on the scale. I'm just gonna zero it out. So you're just joining. All we did so far is we have cut up some carrots, onion, and celery into our pan. And then we also have a family pan going, just carrots, onions, and celery in the family pan. And now I'm going to just cut my chicken. So I get 120 grams of chicken. Oh, and the dog just came over for some. He knows the sound. He's so funny. He cracks me up. All right, so there's my chicken, and I'm just gonna set my chicken. It's already cooked, but I'm just gonna set it aside. Now I'm just gonna cut up extra for the family pan, and I'll just leave that here on the cutting board. My chicken is seasoned. Like when I grill it, sometimes I'll just grill it plain so that I can season it however I want when I'm going to eat it. But this is Trader Joe's Sofrito seasoning, and it is amazing. And I can't get enough of it. And I don't know, if you look up the Sofrito seasoning, I think on Amazon or somewhere, it has like some 1-star rating, which is very inaccurate. The stuff is so good. And it goes with so many meals. So I use it a lot. I need to sharpen my knife. All right, and I'm just eyeballing. Like that looks good for the amount of chicken to go into their pan with 1 piece for the dog. Okay, all done. All right, so I'm just gonna let you guys kind of catch up a little bit on cutting some veggies and cutting some chicken if you need to still be cutting. And while you do that, I'm just going to tell you the other meal idea that you can make this exact same way, but instead of using chicken, you would use like roast or sirloin, any type of a beef, and cube up your beef and just keep carrots in some bigger chunks and you would measure out potatoes. So whatever your plan calls for potatoes, you can measure out your amount. And so then you have more like a beef stew type recipe, which would be really good. I am going to move this over here. And I am going to move you guys over to my stove. All right. Now, when it comes to just sauteing up these veggies a little bit, normally we would just douse in a bunch of oil or douse in a bunch of butter. And we want to try to get away from that. So what I have found, and it works totally fine, is just put a little bit of chicken broth. So for your portion, just put a little bit of chicken broth in the bottom of your pan. Doesn't have to be a lot. And we'll turn that burner on. Family pan, we can use oil or butter or broth for their pan and saute up their veggies. So I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil. That doesn't have to be measured. I'm just putting in probably about a tablespoon of theirs. Turn that burner on. We're just going to saute these just a little bit. It does not have to be cooked a ton. Now, before class started, you should have pulled together your seasonings. I've got my cup of seasonings. So this will be seasoning for all the recipes, but we'll just take some pinches of it, put it in ours, and dump the rest into the family pan. The family pan gets cream of mushroom soup. The reason we don't is because the stuff is super high calorie. And we're just going to kind of make our own cream of chicken-ish, cream of chicken soup. You could certainly add mushrooms in here. Get creative. If you want mushrooms in there, throw them in. Okay, now as these are starting to cook, I'm going to measure out my rice. So I'm just using Uncle Ben's rice, and we get, oh, I wrote it down. Let's see, 29 grams. And the nice thing with these come with seasoning packets. You could totally use the seasoning packet in these soups instead of making your own. And these seasoning packets are really good, actually. I really like them. I have a measuring cup. I'm sticking it on my scale. My scale is right here. I'm going to zero out my scale. I'm going to measure 29 grams. This is going to be my rice. So I'm just going to actually dump this out. I'm going to set it with my chicken on my chicken plate. And then the rest I'll use for the family pan. Now, one of the options that I gave you guys was to use a white cooking wine. This is the white cooking wine that I use. I love the flavor. When we put this in our dishes, the flavor is really, really good. So I like to use this. You can totally omit wine. The alcohol content in it cooks off when we make our stuff. So kids, it's kid friendly. All right. I'm going to measure out a little bit of flour. I've got my measuring cup here. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. This is for my portion. 2 teaspoons of flour is 18 calories. So for this recipe, I use it as a freebie, almost as though it's a condiment. But we want to make sure they're not like massively heaping. Right? We want to level 2 level teaspoons. And then the family portion is going to get 1/4 of a cup. So I'll measure that out. I'm just going to set that aside for a moment. There's the family portion. All right, so in my 2 teaspoons of flour, I'm going to mix in 1/2 cup of chicken broth. We're going to whisk that. We don't want it to be chunky. If we don't whisk it or we just put the flour in here, it'll kind of get chunky. There we go. And then I'm going to add in our white wine right into that as well. So we get 2 tablespoons. It thickens up nice. Just kind of let that simmer for just a moment. The smell of that wine is so good. Now I've got the rice and the chicken pieces. I'm just going to dump this right into my pan. Stir it up. And I'm going to add in more broth. Because we want that rice to cook, and that rice is going to soak up some of that liquid. So we've got ours going. We're going to let that continue to go. I'm going to just work on the family pan over here. All right, so they get 1/4 of a cup of butter, which is 1/2 of a stick. So I'm going to put that in theirs. I'm just going to put it in chunks here. I'm just going to bring you over here. So anytime you mix butter and flour, you're going to make what they call a roux, which is just basically like a glue or a thickening agent. Letting that butter melt, and once it's melted, you can add in some flour. Right here, I just sprinkle that over the top and then stir it up until it's like thick. Now, the reason we didn't just put flour on ours is because we didn't use the butter part. We used the broth. And I dump wine into theirs. They get like, what do they get? Half a cup. I don't measure. I'm a dumper. And I'm going to add in some broth. I'm just adding the rest of my container there. Stir that up so it doesn't get chunky. All right. Now, I want to add the seasonings now that we're kind of to this point. So I've got my dish of seasonings. We're going to add however much you want to your dish. And then we're going to dump the rest in the family. Add the rice into the family pot, just like we did for ours. Add the chicken into the family pot, just like we did to ours. Stir that up. Now the family pan also gets an additional treat in theirs, should you desire, cream of mushroom soup. It could be cream of chicken soup too. That would be good. Or even cream of celery. And my soup over here, a little stir. And it'll take just a bit for that rice to cook. Stir their cream of whatever soup in. Now you're just going to want to keep an eye on it. You can add more broth or water if it gets, you know, too thick, because like I said, the water or the rice is going to drink up some of that fluid. Bring you guys back over to our single pan. So like this recipe is super easy if you're only making your own. I mean, it's super easy anyway, but we're going to want to make sure the carrots are cooked, make sure the celery is cooked, and make sure the rice is cooked before we eat our portion. And then at the very end, what we're going to do is we're going to add in our cream cheese. So we get 31 grams of cream cheese. So I've got my plate here that the chicken and rice are on. I'm going to zero that out. Just kidding. I'm going to set the plate aside. Sorry. I'm going to get I have my cream cheese. I just use regular cream cheese. I'm going to stick my cream cheese on the scale. I'm going to zero that out. And I'm going to dig in with my spoon until it says -31. Ah, yeah, I love when I get it on the first shot. Now I just have the cream cheese sitting aside. Family pan will not need cream cheese because they've got the cream of mushroom soup. So they're good. And I'm done with my scale. So basically that's it. Now it's just a matter of the rice cooking. Make sure to pop in there and give her some stirs every now and then. And add fluid if ever needed. And if your rice packet or your rice box came with a seasoning packet and you taste your soup and you're like, oh, it needs more seasoning, just bust this sucker open and add. These packets, I mean, truly, they're really good. I don't know what their calorie count is, but it's got to be pretty low. So, you know, you're not going to add the whole packet to your soup anyway. I'm going to grab some more broth to add to the family pot.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your soup. Post your pictures of your soup in the comments on the page. We'll post. I want to see you guys eating it.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. So that's it, you guys. If there's any questions, please let me know questions. If you come up with questions at the end, let me know. I don't add this cream cheese in until like the very end. So I'm not going to add this in until my rice is cooked and my carrots are cooked. Once those are cooked, I will add in that cream cheese. I can already tell this is going to be massive volume. I don't know if it's going to fit. I don't know if it's going to fit in a bowl because it's a lot. But hey, whatever. Who knew dieting could be so much fun, right? Volume, deliciousness. So anytime somebody asks you, oh, are you just eating broccoli and chicken? You can chuckle and say, no, most definitely not. Okay, I need ideas though. If you guys have some ideas for further meals, there is one I think I'm gonna make possibly next week. It'll be like a jambalaya type meal. So it'll be shrimp and kielbasa sausage and rice and peppers. That one's super good. We eat that one quite a bit around here. And, but yeah, so any other ideas that you have for meals, just let me know. Because I love hearing what those are. Usually I get an idea or inspired by just seeing something, scrolling through my page, and I see a recipe somewhere or like a picture of something. I'm like, ooh, we should make that. The nice thing about this is if you do a lot of extra servings, it's super fast for lunch. Oh, today, and I should tell you guys, I'll post this video later, probably tomorrow, but I made a video today of me doing food prep, like how fast it was, and just, all I prepped was, I grilled, at the same time I grilled the chicken, I also grilled a mahi and a salmon fillet, and then I made rice. And I'm going to show you guys just with that super simple prep, the meals that I can make out of that. But the salmon one was amazing. So Carrie in our group had shared a post of the salmon. It was like a salmon rice bowl, and you shred up the salmon. All you do is shred the salmon, put your rice portion in it, squirt it with soy sauce, squirt it with sriracha mayo, and eat it. And it was so good. It was so good. Gotta check my carrots. The seasoning is really good. The flavor is good in there. I'm gonna add just a touch of broth to mine. So some ideas, some people like to eat crackers or something with their soup, or bread or something like that. So all you would do for that is borrow those calories from your meal for carbohydrate. One of the things we kind of learn through this process is what's a carb, what's a protein, what's a fat. And it takes some time usually to get acclimated into knowing that information. But I can tell you that crackers or bread, those are carbohydrate sources. So your kind of freedom calories, that is where you would measure out some crackers or something for that if you wanted. But our soup has our carb in it, which is the rice.
What's the total calories for this, Tana?
190 here. Total calories is 400 on the dot.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right, mine's ready. So I'm just gonna add my cream cheese in there. I'm gonna turn my burner off. And I'm just gonna stir that around until it is melted. And that's another thing too, you guys, this is a 400 calorie meal. So if your plan says, well, your meal is 500 or 600, whatever that looks like, you have calories to make up. So that's where you could fit those crackers in. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. That cream cheese, just like, this looks better than the family one. Usually it is. So that is, I can hardly I better not tip it, but I will, I'll take a fancy picture of it. Get that posted. I'm neglecting the family portion over here. Hot, ooh, hot. I burned myself. All right. Since they're not coming home for a little bit, I'm just gonna throw theirs on simmer because that'll be totally acceptable. All right, that is it. Does anybody have any questions? No, no, no. Okay, if you come up with ideas for our next class or whatever, or for a future class, let me know. I'm all ears. Okay. Yay, good. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.